They said he was different before he ever learned what that word meant, before the labels, before the whispers, before the looks that lingered just long enough to hurt, before the world decided who he was. His name was Elijah Carter, and this is where his story begins. Elijah didn't cry like other babies. That was the first thing his mother noticed. Not because he was quiet, but because when he did cry, it came out sharp, sudden, like pain had surprised him instead of growing naturally inside him. Sometimes he wouldn't cry at all. He'd just stare. Big brown eyes locked onto the ceiling fan, watching it spin like it was telling him secrets nobody else could hear. His mother, Renee Carter, used to stand in the doorway late at night, arms folded tight across her chest, watching her son lie awake for hours. No fussing, no sleeping, just watching. Maybe he's just smart, her sister said once. Or stubborn, another relative joked. But Renee knew. A mother always knows. By the time Elijah was 3, the silence became loud. He didn't speak in sentences, only fragments. Didn't respond when his name was called. Didn't play with other children. And when the noise of the world got too sharp, sirens, arguments, slammed doors, Elijah would cover his ears and rock back and forth, humming softly to himself like he was trying to hold his own mind together. Doctors' offices became familiar. White walls, clipboards, cold smiles. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday afternoon. Autism spectrum disorder. High functioning, they said. But they said it like a warning, like a limitation, like a quiet apology for the life he wouldn't have. Renee held her son's hand as the doctor explained therapies, accommodations, challenges. She nodded. She listened. But all she could hear was the unspoken truth hiding between every word. The world will not be kind to him. Growing up black in a city that barely pretended to care was hard enough. Growing up black and autistic, that was something else entirely. Elementary school was where Elijah learned that being different was dangerous. Kids noticed how he flinched at sudden noises, how he avoided eye contact, how he spoke slowly, carefully, like every word had to be inspected before being released. They called him Robot, Space Boy, Creepy. Teachers said he was disruptive when he shut down. They didn't see panic. They saw defiance. They didn't hear fear. They heard attitude. And Renee, God bless her, she warned them. Every meeting, every no-home, every IEP discussion. My son doesn't process stress the way other kids do, she'd say. He needs patience. He needs understanding. Some nodded. Most didn't. Middle school was worse. That's when the world teaches boys like Elijah that survival means shrinking. He learned to walk the hallways with his eyes down. Learned to sit in the back of the class, silent. Learned to swallow insults like medicine, bitter but necessary. He loved patterns, numbers, order. When things made sense, his mind calmed. But the world didn't make sense, especially not the way people treated him. By 16, Elijah had grown tall, 6 feet, broad shoulders, deep voice. To strangers, he looked intimidating. To police officers, he looked suspicious. To bullies, he looked like a challenge. But inside, he was still the same boy who covered his ears when the world got too loud. Renee noticed a shift. The way people stopped seeing her son as a child. The way fear crept into their eyes when he moved too fast or spoke too slow. That scared her more than anything. Listen to me, she told him one night while washing dishes, the kitchen light flickering above them. If anything ever happens, anything, you keep your hands where people can see them. Elijah nodded. You don't run. Nod. You don't argue. Nod. And you don't talk unless I'm there or a lawyer is. He frowned. Why? Because the truth was too heavy to place on an 18-year-old's shoulders. So she just said, because the world doesn't always listen to boys like you. The night everything changed started like any other. Cold air, street lights buzzing, a convenience store on the corner of Jefferson and 9th. The same one Elijah walked past every evening on his way home from his part-time job shelving books at the library. Routine mattered to him. Routine was safety. But that night, something was wrong. The store lights were on, but the door was open. A police siren wailed somewhere far off. Elijah hesitated. His chest tightened. Change disrupted his mind like static. He told himself to keep walking. But then he heard it, a sound sharp enough to cut through his thoughts. A scream. He froze. His hands trembled. Every instinct told him to leave, but his feet didn't move. The scream came again, short, panicked, then silence. Elijah took one step forward, then another. Inside the store, the shelves were overturned. Glass glittered across the floor like broken stars. And behind the counter, the clerk, lying still, blood pooling dark against white tiles. Elijah's breath caught. His mind fractured. Too much input, too much noise, too much fear. He backed away, and that's when the sirens stopped. Lights flooded the store. Voices shouted. Hands up. Elijah didn't process the words fast enough. Didn't understand what they saw. Didn't understand what they needed him to do. He raised his hands, but too slowly. Turned, but too abruptly. And in that moment, they saw a tall black boy standing over a dead body and decided they had found their answer. They didn't ask why he was there. They didn't ask if he was okay. They didn't ask if he even understood what was happening. They slammed him to the floor, pressed a knee into his back, cuffed his wrists. Elijah screamed, not in anger, but in terror, the kind that comes when the world collapses without warning. And somewhere across town, Renee Carter woke up with a pain in her chest she couldn't explain. They took Elijah Carter to a room with no windows, just gray walls, a metal table bolted to the floor, and a clock that ticked loud enough to feel like it was inside his chest. He sat with his hands cuffed in front of him, fingers twitching, eyes fixed on the edge of the table where a scratch curved like a crescent moon. He traced it with his gaze again and again, counting the seconds between ticks. Routine, focus, breathe. The door opened. Two detectives walked in, one older, one younger. The older one had tired eyes and a voice that carried authority, like a habit. The younger one leaned back against the wall, arms crossed, watching Elijah like he was already a problem that needed solving. They didn't ask if he wanted a lawyer. They didn't ask if he understood his rights. They started talking. Name! Elijah Carter. Why were you in the store? I was walking home. That's not what I asked. Elijah swallowed. His mind lagged behind the pace of questions. Words piled up faster than he could organize them. I heard a noise. What kind of noise? A scream. So, you went inside? Yes. The older detective leaned forward. And then what happened? Elijah stared at the table. I don't know. The younger detective scoffed. You don't know? There's a dead man on the floor. Elijah flinched. The lights felt brighter. The room felt smaller. He covered his ears for half a second before catching himself, hands clinking against the cuffs. Don't do that, the older detective snapped. Look at me when I'm talking to you. Elijah tried. He really did. But eye contact felt like standing too close to fire. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time blurred when stress took control. They asked the same questions in different ways. They raised their voices, lowered them, left the room, came back. They told him they had witnesses. They told him they had video. They told him the clerk fought back. Elijah shook his head over and over. No, I didn't touch him. Then why were you standing over the body? I was scared. Scared of what? I don't know. The younger detective leaned in close, his voice low and sharp. You know how this looks, right? Elijah didn't answer, because he didn't. Not really. When Renee arrived at the station, it was already too late. She saw her son through a narrow window in the interrogation room. Shoulders hunched, rocking slightly, eyes unfocused. Her heart broke clean in half. He's autistic, she told him immediately. You can't question him like this. The older detective sighed, like she was an inconvenience. He seems fine to me. He's not, she said, voice shaking. He doesn't understand what you're doing. They let her sit in eventually, but the damage was done. Elijah had already said too much, and not enough. The confession wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, confused, fragmented. I went inside, he said after hours of pressure. I was there. I didn't mean for anything bad to happen. Those words, twisted, stripped of context, were all they needed. The trial moved fast. Too fast. Public defender. Overworked. Underprepared. The prosecutor painted a picture that didn't include autism. Only size. Only presence. Only fear. They showed the jury a photo of Elijah standing at 6 feet tall. They showed crime scene images. They played parts of the interrogation, carefully selected. They didn't explain why Elijah avoided eye contact. Didn't explain why he rocked. Didn't explain why his answers sounded uncertain. They called it guilt. Renee testified. She told them about her son's diagnosis, about his routines, about how he panicked under pressure. The prosecutor smiled politely, then asked, "Ms. Carter, isn't it true your son is physically capable of overpowering a grown man?" Renee hesitated. "Yes. And isn't it true that autism doesn't make someone incapable of violence?" The jury shifted. Renee felt the room turn. "Yes," she whispered, but no further questions. Elijah didn't testify. His lawyer said it was safer. Elijah sat quietly, hands folded, eyes down. He counted the lights in the ceiling. 22, then 22 again. The verdict came back in less than 4 hours. Guilty, second-degree murder. Elijah didn't react. He didn't cry. He didn't shout. He just looked at his mother and said, "I'm sorry." Prison was not built for boys like Elijah. It was loud, unpredictable, violent. The first night, he didn't sleep. The second night, he covered his ears until his arms ached. The third night, someone laughed at the way he rocked on his bunk. By the end of the week, someone tested him. A shove, a threat, a joke at his expense. Elijah froze, didn't fight back, didn't understand the rules. That's when the guards labeled him. Weird, problem, liability. But something unexpected happened. Elijah adapted. Not fast, not easily, but carefully. He found patterns in the chaos. Meal times, guard rotations, noise cycles. He kept his head down, helped in the library, organized books with precision that surprised even the staff. Years passed. Elijah turned 19 in prison, then 20, then 21. Each birthday marked by silence. And then one afternoon, everything shifted. Elijah was shelving old court transcripts when he noticed something. A detail, a timestamp. The store security camera footage logged. The clerk had died at 9:42 p.m., but the emergency call came in at 9:39 p.m., 3 minutes earlier. Elijah stared at the numbers. His chest tightened, not with fear this time, but clarity. He knew patterns, and this one didn't fit. He showed it to the librarian, who showed it to a volunteer legal aid worker, who frowned and asked a question no one had asked before. If the call came before the death, who made the call? Elijah's hands trembled. For the first time since that night, the truth began to surface. The first rule of prison was this: hope is dangerous. It gets men hurt. It gets men broken. It gets men killed inside their own minds. Elijah Carter knew that. So when a legal aid volunteer slid the paper back across the desk and looked at him differently, not with pity, but with curiosity, Elijah didn't smile. He didn't celebrate. He just asked one question. Is it wrong? The woman hesitated. No, she said carefully. It's strange. Strange was Elijah's world. But strange wasn't enough to save a life. Her name was Marissa Bloom, and unlike most people who pass through the prison library, she didn't rush. She listened. She asked Elijah to explain how he noticed the discrepancy. He did, slowly, methodically, pointing to timestamps, logs, radio records. He spoke in patterns, in logic, in sequences that made sense to him. Marissa stopped him halfway through. Elijah, she said softly, has anyone ever tested the timestamp integrity of this footage? He shook his head. No one asked. That answer haunted her, because the truth was simple and devastating. No one had ever really asked Elijah anything. Within weeks, Marissa filed a motion to review the evidence. It was denied. She filed another. Denied again, but she didn't stop, because the more she dug, the uglier the picture became. The store security system had been manually reset earlier that evening. The emergency call had been routed through a burner phone, and a witness statement, used to place Elijah at the scene earlier than he claimed, had quietly changed between drafts. Small cracks, but cracks let light in. Renee Carter received the call on a rainy afternoon. "Ms. Carter," Marissa said, "I believe your son was framed." Renee dropped the phone and cried the kind of cry that comes after years of holding your breath. The power shift didn't happen overnight. It never does. It happened quietly. A journalist picked up the story. Then another. Headlines didn't scream at first. They whispered. New questions raised in Carter conviction. Autism in the justice system. A case revisited. People started asking why an autistic teenager had been interrogated without accommodations, why key evidence hadn't been examined, why the timeline didn't make sense, and most importantly, who benefited from a quick conviction. The answer came from a place nobody expected. The clerk's nephew, a man drowning in debt, a man who worked nights, a man who knew the store, knew the camera system, knew how to make a call before it was too late. He'd panicked, killed his uncle during an argument over money, then staged the scene. And when police found a tall black boy standing nearby, confused, frightened, alone, he disappeared into the background. Let the system do what it had always done. The retrial was nothing like the first. This time, the courtroom was quiet, respectful. This time, experts explained autism, not as an excuse, but as a reality. This time, the interrogation video was played in full. Every raised voice, every ignored cue, every moment Elijah shut down. The jury watched his 18-year-old self rocking in that chair, hands cuffed, eyes begging for the world to slow down. Some jurors cried. Elijah testified. For the first time, he spoke calmly. "Clearly, I didn't know what to do," he said. "My brain stops when I'm scared. I thought helping was the right thing." No one interrupted him. No one rushed him. For the first time, the world listened. The verdict took less than an hour. Not guilty. The real killer was arrested that same week. Elijah Carter walked out of prison at 24 years old. 6 years stolen. 6 years gone. But not forgotten. Renee hugged her son like she could stitch time back together with her arms. Elijah breathed in the air, counted his steps. 22 to the gate. 22 again. Justice didn't erase the damage. It didn't give him back his youth. It didn't undo the nights of fear. But it did something powerful. It told the truth. And sometimes, that's enough to change everything. Years later, Elijah spoke at law schools, police academies, courtrooms. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He explained how systems fail when they don't listen, how difference is mistaken for danger, how silence is not guilt. And the lesson, the one that lingered long after the story ended, was simple. Justice isn't blind. It sees exactly what it's taught to see. And until the world learns to see boys like Elijah as human, not threats, not problems, not answers to someone else's crime, there will always be another name, another cell, another mother warning her child how to survive a system that was never built for him. But Elijah Carter survived. And because he did, the truth finally did too.